.7 WNCU member-supported radio, where you just heard Variations, a duo, a Hale Smith composition with saxophonist Dr. Ira Wiggins and cellist Dr. Timothy Holley. And you gave us a bit of history before that on this particular composition, and there's so much more. But I noticed that throughout your scholarly career, your main focus was Black composers, namely because you're a Black composer, and namely because there are so many that do not receive highlight, just a lot in the classical idiom, certainly in the jazz idiom, but more so in the classical idiom. And a lot of people are surprised when they see a lot of African American composers.
Yeah, I think the timing of the pandemic and other current events that are happening around the country have, they've made for a few interesting teachable moment conversations, so to speak.
Yeah.
I would say, though, at least my involvement in the music of African American composers is partially an outgrowth of my family background, my connection, of course, to my uncle, and his connection to Hale Smith. Hale and my uncle were very close friends. In fact, just a few days ago, Hale's widow, Juanita, called me up, and she'll sometimes do this. She refers to herself as a hysterian. She's both a historian and a hysterical.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So that when she sees a photograph or something of my uncle, she puts it in an envelope, puts a stamp on it, and sends it to me, and sometimes calls me to let me know that something's on the way.
Yes.
And she mentioned just a few days ago that Hale and my uncle would sometimes talk all night. My uncle would be out playing at a club, and he would get in 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and call Hale, and they would just talk. And half the time they would talk and have disagreements over the phone. So they had to work that out. But yet in the disagreements, it never became disagreeable. And there was just this constant love for each other that manifested itself, not just in the conversations, but in the ways that my uncle would reach out to help them, whether it was picking up musicians coming in from JFK Airport, because they lived out on Long Island in Freeport.
Tell me about your love of being a cellist. And are you currently playing anywhere in terms of, I guess, other than practicing?
Yes, I am
axe?
managing to do some practicing, and actually revising and returning to works of African American composers that I'd worked on previously. My doctoral dissertation at the University of Michigan focused on the concert music, or the cello and chamber music of African American composers. Yes. One thing I often will do in conversation is make the distinction between what a lot of people call classical music and what I choose to call concert music.
Okay, let's make that distinction.
Well, the distinction between the classical music and the concert music tradition is one of both a historical period. When we say the music of Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven, we call that classical music. But if it's music of a composer who was born in 1950 and let's say it's a Terence Blanchard, and he's writing music for Spike Lee's films. He's not classical in the sense that we expect or that we imagine as classical. But instead, when his music is performed live, and even when you hear recordings of it, there is a concert music aspect to it, meaning you listen carefully, and there is something to be drawn from the music itself that sometimes is tied to a title or a story or an event. In this case, say, the music from A Tale of God's Will, which has a lot to do with Hurricane Katrina, and so the concert music tradition for me is one where it's geared more to how the audience and how the listener should take in the music and process it. Whereas when we hear jazz, whether it's a recording or live, it's sometimes thought of as music that you're supposed to enjoy but not focus on. And that can be a tricky thing.
As opposed to classical music, you're supposed to focus on it.
Well, that's the expectation.
And enjoy.
Even though in Mozart's time and Beethoven's time, a lot of the music that we now focus on was originally written as background music. It's almost like the poster over there on the wall. It's nice for the wall, but we don't walk right up and stare at it from 6 inches away. That kind of focus.
That kind of focus. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to WNCU Cares Artist Series with Dr. Holley, Dr. Timothy Holley, and he's sharing his stories and also a great wealth of information from the standpoint of an African-American composer and highlighting other African-American composers that often go overlooked. I like to highlight some more of your playing. You played on the recent project of the Tribe, Lenore Zinzali Helm's project. She Dr. Helm project.
Getting close.
Getting close.
Getting close.
And you played cello on Stella by Starlight. So let's go ahead and listen to that. Now this is in the jazz tradition, classical music, if you will. I'm really
very blended.
Very blended. Let's go for it. Here's Stella by Starlight at member-supported radio 90.7 WNCU.
starlight, starlight.
90.7 WNCU member-supported radio. You are listening to WNCU Cares Artist Series. Oh my goodness, I don't even know what number we're in, but I know Dr. Holley is here, and he just performed on Stella by Starlight with the version.
Actually, you just performed too.
I'm trying not to say it. Come on. Shh. Don't tell the world.
Serena
this is not
by
about
Starlight.
Me. More of those getting those changes, that's what it's about. Jazz, and but it's about you today. It's about Dr. Holley, Timothy Holley. How do you feel when you play jazz versus being a classical
Oh goodness.
performer?
Usually one notch away from terrified.
Oh, so like Miles Davis when Parker would leave the set, and I was told the story, he would throw up.
Oh yeah,
because there's so much pressure.
Well, Coltrane stepping into an elevator shaft, empty elevator shaft, and it's not that the feeling emotionally is that, but it's that you realize that there is a space and a moment in time where you're having to be the creator, if you will.
For sure.
And, it's also a fluid space of time. It's moving. So if you don't do anything, that's also something of a statement.
Right, knowing when to hold them and when to fold, right?
No, don't fold them.
Don't fold?
Let them go.
Let them go, okay.
Isn't that what Abby Lincoln said?
Throw it away. Throw it away. Look at this. Quotes from all of the greats, including you. I know that I think the focus today is really highlighting black composers, African American composers, and you had a moment in time. You're on one of these CDs, William C. Banfield's CDs, Extensions of the Tradition. So there's a lot of spiritual songs that you've been a part of. I mean, that seems to be steeped in who you are as a musician. As a person. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
And, as I sometimes use the code word, the village. And whenever I use the word the village, I'm speaking of my biological family as well as the developed and gathered group of folks that have shared interests. Yeah. And, yes, the Negro spiritual tradition is one that I grew up just really always being surrounded by. And the recording that we're about to listen to, more intensely is a cycle of 3 spirituals that Bill referred to as spirit songs. The first is Were You There? The second is actually his arrangement of Andre Crouch's song Soon and Very Soon.
Okay.
But and then the third is the spiritual Hold On. So we're going to listen to Hold On.
And how did you come? How were you able to be a part of this project? Well,
Bill and I met, and off mic, I was telling you that we are both native Detroiters.
I have to act like we didn't have the conversation before.
Right.
But now the cat's out of the bag.
We're both natives of Detroit, Michigan, and had my family stayed in Detroit as I was going through my adolescent years, most likely Bill and I would have met in high school because Bill is a graduate of Cass Technical High School in Detroit, Michigan, which is where Regina Carter went to high school as well. In fact, they were in school together. Okay. So my cello story actually begins not in Detroit, but in Lansing, Michigan, where my family moved in 1970. And my parents still live there now. And my cello story began because the public schools offered Suzuki string instruction at the elementary school level. So I started playing cello in the 5th grade, but I'd started playing trombone when I was in the 3rd grade. But in Lansing, I would have had to wait until I was in the 7th grade to continue playing in band.
Oh,
so
that's
I
too
picked
long
up
of
the
a
cello,
gap.
gave the trombone a little bit of a break, and then going into high school, I picked the trombone back up and played into college, as well as playing cello. But I majored in cello as an undergraduate.
Trombone in your house anywhere?
Not now.
Okay.
In fact,
those days are long past.
I guess my official retirement from trombone playing was when I donated a trombone that had come to me through my family, and I brought it over to BN Duke Auditorium and told Dr. Wiggins, here's a horn for the for the cause.
We appreciate you certainly for the cause.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and get into this music. I have some playing underneath, but specifically track number 7.
Yeah. That's Hold On.
Hold On. Let's go ahead and hear that. You're listening to member-supported radio, 90.7 WNCU. .7 WNCU, scholarly words from Dr. Timothy Holley on this day, WNCU Cares Artist Series, where we heard the compositions of William C. Banfield from his album Extensions of the Tradition. We heard Hold On, and you were putting some work in on the cello.
Yeah, it's a wonderful and fun piece to play. I've had a chance to perform it a number of times, most recently with a vocalist, a tenor by the name of Adam Mitchell, who now lives in Kernersville, North Carolina. And he is an alumnus of UNC Chapel Hill. And in fact, I met Adam about 8 years ago now at a conference that my good friend Dr. Louise Toppin, who at the time was chair of the Department of Music there. She is now at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor as a professor of voice. But of course, Bill Banfield was invited and came to Chapel Hill for that conference that Louise Toppin hosted as well. And I was actually invited to coach another cellist, another UNC student named Christian Adams and Adam Mitchell on Bill Banfield's piece. And we talked about Hold On in a coaching session, and I told these gentlemen, here's your assignment for the rest of the day. For Hold On, you got to listen to as much James Brown as you can.
Okay.
And as much music of Tower of Power as you can. And I even made reference to the song What Is Hip. Because if you listen to the opening of What Is Hip, and then you listen to the opening of Hold On, it's as if Bill Banfield was trying to make the cellist play the funk of James Brown as well as the funk of Tower of Power at the same time.
Is
on
that
one cello with just 4 strings and 4 fingers,
That's not common? For my
I would say no.
No. I mean, you can make something out of nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I guess
isn't that what we do?
we do. Technically, so it's more of a challenge to get that.
Technically, it's more of a challenge because as cellists, we have a certain technical approach to the instrument that we're taught and that we perform and teach. And then the tradition that Bill was writing from was much more of a rhythm guitar, horn line oriented approach. And that's one of the things that is really an amazing challenge for me as a musician who loves the jazz tradition. I try not to call myself a jazz cellist. I feel like I'm always pursuing that tradition from my concert music perspective and background.
You're just a musician that plays different genres of music.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to WNCU Cares Artist Series with Dr. Timothy Holley, and cellist, associate professor at North Carolina Central University. Has played with Mallarmé. Did I pronounce that correctly? Mallarmé performance. Now, is there something happening virtually with that particular ensemble?
Yes, they are doing things virtually. I know they did a concert back in July. Actually, that included a piece by T.J. Anderson that I have a relationship with artistically. I don't know what they are doing currently, but I know that their website is easily available, and they advertise their virtual events very well. Well, that goes to show that you stay connected with it. So I mean, I guess you have to perform on your own right now since we're all virtual. Yes, and I have done some collaborative performances virtually with the Gateways Music Festival Orchestra. I've been associated with that orchestra since 2011. And also I was invited by the vibraphonist Joe Locke to do a performance of a piece that he had kind of borrowed from Bob Dylan. It's called The Watchtower. And I think it's going to be released fairly soon. I wish it were released today. Yeah, me too. Well, that would have been nice to hear. I'll send Joe a message on Facebook and have him put a rush on the post-production. Ahead. Tell him to do it now. You're listening to 90.7 WNCU, and I think we're going to hear a Billy Childs song. It was your request. So tell me about the Billy Childs New York Tenderberry. Okay, well, Billy Childs is a contemporary and good friend of Bill Banfield. Billy Childs came to North Carolina State back in 2016, in November of 2016. And this is a quick, great story that I have to tell you. By then, the CD Map to the Treasure had come out. I think my mom sent me that compact disc. And she had gone to see him. My parents had gone to see him in a concert because he had been commissioned to write a work by Michigan State's Department of Music. And He was at the concert. She got to meet him, and he autographed that CD.
Yeah.
So she sent it to me in the mail, and I started listening to it and just fell in love with it. And I played it quite a bit on the Midday Jazz Adjustment. In fact, Save the Country is become something of an anthem of itself.
Words,
of
very
late.
true.
But in November of 2016, I got an emergency last-minute text message from one of my cello colleagues, a gentleman named Nathan Leyland,
Okay.
who plays with the Mallarmé Chamber Players. Come to find out, he'd injured his thumb somehow and was texting me saying, hey, are you working
Jeez.
this weekend?
Yeah.
I text him back and I say, yeah, what's going on? There's a concert at NC State. Here's the rehearsal schedule. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Wow.
And I texted him back and said, yeah, it seems like I'm available. I have to play something down in Bowie's Creek at Campbell University earlier that Saturday. But other than that, I'm free in the afternoon and in the evening. Who am I playing with? And he said, Billy Childs. I texted him back and said, I got you covered.
Exactly.
In fact, I owe him a 6-pack of beer for that one, because that was a wonderful experience. The thing is that I only had about 24 hours to learn a whole concert's worth of music.
You're a professional.
And, yes, on most good days. But the very first piece of the concert was the selection that we're going to hear from Map to the Treasure. New York Tenderberry, featuring Renee Fleming and Yo-Yo Ma.
Ooh, okay, let's go for it. You're listening to 90.7 WNCU.
New York, crash on ram of brush and drum, and the past is a blue note inside me. So I ran away in the morning. New York, Tenderberry, rugs and drapes and drugs and capes, sweet kids in hunger slums, firecrackers break and they cross and they dust and they skate and the night comes. I ran away in the morning. Now I'm back, unpacked. tenderberry. To Here where I've cried, where I've
90.7 WNCU, member-supported radio. Welcome to the second hour of WNCU Cares Artist Series with Dr. Timothy Holley. I have to keep on saying Timothy Holley. You know, I have to let the world know that I was once your student. And once you're, wow. I mean, I'm always a student.
What? Let's see. Now, you came in
2003.
Right, 2003. So you were right on the heels of the gang that came from D.C. and from
Yes.
St. Louis, Amin and
Al,
Leroy Barley and
Bean.
Al and Bean. So yeah, you're right on their heels.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. You know, I learned ear training from you.
Really?
Took your ear training course. And your survey, I think it's survey music, or it was African music. It was, I know it was a lecture course.
Okay, maybe African American music,
really
vocal and instrumental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You got me thinking. You got a lot of us pondering a lot of things that go on historically.
Oh,
so, yeah. Thank you for what is the word? Piquing our interest in planting the seed, pretty much.
My pleasure. You know, honestly, here's the secret that a lot of faculty members don't want to tell their students too soon, is the fact that they're just a half step ahead in the learning curve.
That's how you stay humble. You stay, definitely humble. The ego is not there. You just pull it out in your music. So great.
True.
And the music we just heard was Starker Plays Baker.
Yes.
A tribute to Dizzy. That was in Dizzy Gillespie, but that was a song.
Yes, David,
song entitled Dizzy.
Yeah, the work is that of the late David Baker.
Mm-hmm.
David Baker and Yana Starker were the two longest-serving faculty members at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. And let's see. Most of my acquaintance with and appreciation of the jazz tradition from the cello perspective, I attribute to my familiarity with the music of and the jazz education materials of David Baker and Jamie Aebersold. And as a junior high school student, I had the chance to play in a string jazz ensemble in Lansing, Michigan, called Maple Jam. We played a lot of music of David Baker. I think we did Cantaloupe Island of Herbie Hancock. We learned a Song for My Father of Horace Silver. And it was just we had a rhythm section and a string quintet. Yeah. So it was one on a part, so it was still very much chamber music, like what you heard when the music of Billy Childs was playing. And we also improvised.
But it had the feeling, the feeling, the rhythm of what the culture of jazz represents.
What it represents, but also we had a chance to overcome some of our fear of the empty elevator shaft, of that moment of, now it's your turn to take a solo. Okay, I've figured out, 4 bars worth of stuff that I can play on my instrument, but I still have another 28 to go.
Oh my goodness, don't stop now.
Right.
Keep on going.
No, you can't stop. But that particular movement was the closing movement of a 7-movement suite that David Baker wrote for Yana Starker and George Gaber, the percussionist. Yeah, all 3 longtime members of the faculty at IU.
Wow. Yeah, I found myself studying.
I should say that Yana Starker was one of my grand teachers as well.
He was your grand teacher, so you learned much.
I studied with one of his students as an undergraduate.
Okay, wow. Well, you have so much. I want to hear more of you, but I know that there's another recording from the African diaspora, Remembrance, Soul of Remembrance. And this was music. Now, how is this dear to you?
This is an orchestral piece. It's a movement of a suite by a African-American female composer from California by the name of Mary Watkins. And this particular movement that we're going to hear, I had a chance to play just back in November for a concert with the Color of Music Festival at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And as I had the chance to play it for the first time and also hear it for the first time, it's one of those pieces that if you listen to it at just the right time, you'll be grabbing for a handkerchief. It's just that beautiful.
Should I grab my handkerchief?
Well,
now?
you don't have to grab one just right away. But,
Okay.
it's the kind of music that pays tribute to folks that have been taken from us too soon for a variety of reasons. I mean, I'm certainly reminded of Chadwick Boseman.
I was going
and
to say
Breonna
anything
Taylor.
current.
Yeah, current. The more current, the more better.
Oh my goodness!
So, I'll let the music speak for itself.
We're going to go in a different direction. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to WNCU Cares Artist Series with Dr. Timothy Holley. Now here's Soul of Remembrance from recorded music of the African diaspora. recorded music of the African diaspora, and that was from the College for Black Music Research. The song you heard was Soul of Remembrance.
Yeah.
Wow, how beautiful
Mary
and lush.
Watkins. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful piece. And again, it's the kind of piece that sits right on, not the fringes, but right on the borderline between, again, what I call the concert music tradition. It reminds me of some music of Maurice Ravel.
Yes.
Or of, actually, you can find some music of Terence Blanchard.
Yes.
Where he takes you to that same place.
I mean, just listen to
melodically
Malcolm
and
X
harmonically. Yes, Malcolm X.
I think
the
Eve's
Five
Bayou.
Bloods. And certainly, the documentary When the Levees Broke. And the one thing that is often a challenge when listening to this music and relating it to the African American experience is the question, what's the big message supposed to be?
Right.
In a
What
piece
is the
like
message?
in a piece like that, it is simply paying the honor of remembering. I'm reminded of that African proverb that says, as long as someone is remembered, they never really die.
Exactly.
When
Ashe.
you stop saying their name and stop remembering, that's when you know they're dead and gone.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Very true. Wow. Well, you certainly keep it alive. I'm glad that you embarked upon your dissertation and really wanting to explore African American composers, shedding more light. I'm certain there are tons of doctorates out there that have done the same research, but yours is no. Okay.
Well, I would say
maybe not.
Number
so
one,
much.
thank you, and then secondly, to say that really the doctoral coursework and the recitals that I did back in 1995 and 1996, that was really just the start. In some ways, the dissertation has been the past 25 years, and actually I'm starting to either move on to or return to some works that, that I studied and performed. And, you, as well as I, know that the more something gets played, the better it sounds.
That is subjective.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying. I hear you. I would like to play more music. You suggested to play Wade in the Water.
Yeah, Wade in the Water.
Now, Frederick Tillis. Tell me about Frederick Tillis.
Frederick Tillis, another one of our elders who left us just back in the beginning of May. I'm not sure that it was related to the coronavirus, but he was 90 years of age when he passed on. A number of my colleagues, including Bill Banfield, knew Frederick Tillis very well. Frederick Tillis wrote a series of spiritual fantasies, and what they are there's this network of compositions that are all for different instruments. There are some spiritual fantasies that are choral works, orchestral works. The seventh fantasy is for cello and piano, and it's based on the spiritual On My Journey Now.
Okay.
And I performed that as a part of my dissertation. But the piece that we're going to hear is the spiritual fantasy number 12 for string quartet. It's 4-movement work, and we're going to hear the movement that's based on the spiritual Wade in the Water. And the Lark String Quartet is playing.
Okay, here we are. 90.7 WNCU member-supported radio. Member-supported radio, 90.7 WNCU. And from the album Freedom, that was Frederick Tillis, his composition of, I would say, Wade in the Water reimagined.
Yeah. Wasn't that cool, though?
It was. We had a meter of 7.
Yes.
I felt
7,
duple meter.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting a little nerdy and brainy right now. Back and forth, yes.
Well, but if you can feel it, we'll
the pulse
excuse
was,
the nerds.
There we go. Somebody's agreeing with us out there. You're listening to WNCU Cares Artist Series with Dr. Timothy Holley.
At this point, I would be remiss if I did not give you words of thanks for such a wonderful series that you've put together.
Didn't do it alone.
I certainly understand. None of us
team.
stand alone. Yeah, thank you,
Marquise Gentry. Videographer.
The one thing that I should mention, and I talked about Kobe, the interview with Kobe Watkins last Friday.
Yes.
During this hour, my wife and I were listening over the air, listening online, and when he mentioned Walter Strickland, our ears just, our eyes lit up.
Okay.
Because we met Walter Strickland last summer in Chicago. I met him for the first time, but my wife Leslie, through her father, knew Walter Strickland very well. Now, here's where things get really cool.
Okay.
One of Walter Strickland's students was a trumpeter by the name of Oscar Brashear, who is Leslie's cousin.
Okay.
And he plays, or has played, with the Clayton Hamilton Jazz Orchestra as well as the Count Basie Orchestra.
Wow.
And I've not met him personally, in person yet, but we've talked by phone. And, we've had some rich conversations.
I'm certain. I found that a lot of old heads have so many great stories to share.
Well,
and
I guess I now qualify.
I'm listening. I'm taking it all in. Thank you so much. So we have more music. It's just so much. The amount of music we have, we just cannot cover it in 2 hours. But if you are just tuning in, Dr. Timothy Holley is a cellist. He's also a scholar, an associate professor at North Carolina Central University, with a wealth of information to share and highlight African-American composers. When you hear the word Chevalier, Le Chevalier de Saint George.
His real name was Joseph Ballon de Saint George. He was actually given the nickname Chevalier by his father to somehow distinguish not only his social and familial position as a son, but because he was a mulatto, white Frenchman father, Senegalese mother by the name of Nana, who was a slave. And when the father took mom and son to France for him to be classically educated, I guess the father perceived that there was going to be some problems with him socially in French society as a mulatto. And instead of giving him a knightly title, he was given the name Chevalier, which is French for equestrian, horseman. Which, again, you just have to keep reading the biography to get the explanation for that. But he was an expert violinist and one of the finest swordsmen in France.
I was going to say, fencing champion, conductor, composer, violin virtuoso.
Influenced Haydn and Mozart.
Influenced Haydn and Mozart. Now that's, we sometimes the story just starts with Mozart and Haydn, and they forget.
No.
Well, no, not so much. Wow. Well, you have... There's more of those stories to come. I want to play more music, namely from your uncle, Major Holley. Now he was on. He ran with Oscar Pettiford and also Kenny Burrell.
Yeah, he recorded with Kenny Burrell. I presume that he would have known Oscar Pettiford. I don't think they performed or recorded together. But they were contemporaries. Yeah.
Well, here's one from the album, the Kenny Burrell Midnight Blues album. Let's go with K-Twist.
K-Twist.
All right. Member-supported radio, 90.7 WNCU. Member-supported radio. Well, you just heard the sounds of Midnight Blue with Major Holley on bass and an uncle of Dr. Tim Holley. Yep. And I want to ask a question. And you posed it as well. Let's talk about the jazz history in cello, or jazz cello history, rather.
Okay, well, the history of jazz cello, so to speak, is precariously balanced between the influence of the jazz double bass and the jazz violin. Here's the funny thing. The word cello actually is the diminutive for the word violoncello, which means small bass. So as a cellist, I'm a bass player.
Yes, you are.
But the problem is that my fiddle's too small to balance the drummer, the pianist, and the horn section.
You'd have to pluck extremely hard, or we'd have to bring the volume down.
Yeah, well, you know, I did a video session with Bean just last weekend.
You did.
And, you know, we were just up the street at Hayti, and, you know, I get to the hall to do the session, and Bean's sitting right next to me on drums, and I look at him and said, yeah, I see there's no brushes on this gig, huh? You know, we just laughed it off. But, you know, it's just a practical limitation of the acoustic properties of the instrument. But
so you don't have a mic or any type of amplification for your cello?
No, my instrument's expensive enough. No, it's the kind of thing that I actually am beginning to consider investing in a bit more as we, you know, move on in this new normal
like
that we
electric,
call Rona. Yeah,
electric cello.
Some kind of you know, amplification system that I can, you know, hook up and rig, you know, without too much trouble.
Yeah, you can just create your music in a software program. Just imagine the masterpiece that you're going to create.
Getting to that point, isn't it?
It is. It's here. It's now.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to WNCU Cares Artist Series with Dr. Timothy Holley, and he's actually just just spoke about the history of cello in the genre of jazz. I want to hear more.
Okay.
I want to hear more for Oscar Pettiford. Now, I see that Oscar Pettiford's playing bass and cello on this particular album. Bass.
Probably not at the same time.
Not
but,
at the same
time.
time.
We weren't in the studio back then, so
Virtuoso.
I did it. Yeah.
Well, this. Do you have a story for Golden Touch?
I wish I had a story about Golden Touch, but what I can quickly do is mention that Oscar Pettiford was both a bassist and a cellist, and in fact, on the Midday Jazz Adjustments Facebook page, you can find a photograph of Oscar Pettiford sitting and playing cello next to Duke Ellington at the piano. And what's funny about, or not funny, but interesting about the photograph is that one of Oscar Pettiford's hands, I think it's his right hand, is bandaged up.
Oh.
And the story goes that back in the 40s and 50s, when bands would go on the road, one of the things they did between shows and sets to, stay physically active is they would play baseball or softball.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
the story goes that somehow Oscar got into a softball game and fell and broke his hand.
Yeah.
But apparently
So
his
how's he
hand
play?
was not sufficiently impaired that he couldn't play. But he just bandaged it up. And there's this photograph of Oscar with this bandaged up hand and sitting right next to Duke Ellington.
Right. As they say, the show must go on.
The show indeed must go on. But Oscar was a bassist and a cellist. Ron Carter was actually a cellist first and then switched to bass.
So you could be a bass player.
I could
Well,
be.
you are a bassist.
Yeah. My right hand would look a lot different. Coleman Hawkins actually played
Really?
cello first before switching to tenor saxophone.
Okay. That may explain his
Explain a few
sound.
things.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
in his approach. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all making sense now.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is WNCU Cares Artist Series. Now let's listen to Oscar Pettiford on Golden Touch at member-supported radio 90.7 WNCU. You're listening to Member Supported Radio 90.7 WNCU, having a fantastic conversation offline with Dr. Holley and how the sheer volume of Oscar Pettiford
is light,
light,
cotton candy.
Cotton candy. But then everybody's catering to his sound because of the physics of thankful.
Yeah.
Who wants to hear, overpowering other instruments, overpowering a cello? Yeah. I want to hear the beauty of it, and you just heard it on a Golden Touch.
Wow, Oscar Pettiford.
Quincy Jones tune.
Really? Wow.
It says Q Jones.
Okay,
yeah, unless there's another Quincy Jones in the world.
No, we'll just leave it with Quincy. Yeah. No, but the list of cellists is actually surprisingly. It's longer than you might think. I'm reminded. Well, number one, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Shanna Tucker.
Exactly.
Since she's
Shout
local
out. and she was on the WNCU Cares Artist series
early on, and I listened in and enjoyed that conversation immensely. We've heard Akua Dixon earlier in the hour. She came to Duke University and played with John Brown and the Chumpy Quartet a few years ago, and had the chance to. And in fact, Nina Freelon was also singing that concert as well.
Nice.
There are two cellists who influenced me personally through their recordings, and then also through collegial contact. The cellist Abdul Wadood, his name prior was Ron Devon, but Abdul Wadood performed and recorded a lot with the pianist and composer Anthony Davis.
Okay.
And Anthony Davis is both a jazz pianist as well as a composer of concert music. And in fact, Anthony Davis just finished an opera about the Central Park Five.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the second name, the late Kermit Moore, who passed away in 2013, he was a cellist, composer, and conductor, and his wife was also a composer. Her name is Dorothy Rudd Moore, and I believe she is an octogenarian now. She's 80 years old, and I hope that she is doing better. I'd heard that she had not been in good health just recently.
Our healing energy to her.
Yeah, but I got to meet them both back in 1985 when I was a graduate student at the University of Michigan, and one of my mentors, Dr. Willis Patterson, hosted a week-long symposium of Black American music. And it was just amazing the number of folks that came. Hale Smith was there, T.J. Anderson was there, Frederick Tillis was there, David Baker was there.
We're here.
We
just don't get the light and the recognition, and it's unfortunate.
Well, we're having to do different things for a variety of different reasons.
Very much so. Very much so. Well, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure and honor. Thank you.
My pleasure as well. I'll see you throughout the week. But where people can find you is on Facebook.
Yes.
And you have actually a page that you've created called the African American.
One page, two groups. Yeah.
One page, two groups. The African American Cello History Collective.
Collective, yes.
And then your blog site, A View from the Scroll.
Yes. .blogpost.com.
There we go. Blogpost.com.
And then, of course, there's the Jazz Adjustments at Midday group page.
Okay. Yeah. Jazz Adjustment Midday group page. Yeah. And then we also can hear you every day from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I should know this, but 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. here at WNCU 90.7.
Right. And I'm not terribly active on Twitter just yet, but we'll see what happens on Facebook over the next 2 months.
Okay,
See if I make that exodus or not.
Or not. But, your choice.
Yeah.
But I'd love to play music with you sometime.
We got to do that.
We've done it before.
Quincy
actually,
Jones tune, yeah.
And we played at the Hand at Duke. The Duke performance, it was a Christmas special. You and I in the lobby.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a saxophone and cello.
Yeah, man, that's a long time
ago. A long time ago.
Man, yeah.
Goodness, I have three more gray hairs.
Yeah, well, that's why I shave a lot.
Let's go ahead and take our listeners to the top of the set. We have more music for you, but again, I thank you. We're going to leave with music that's in the system, and actually, you performed with Joe Locke, so I'm going to play his song, and then we're going to go ahead and get prepared for DL, Afternoon Jazz with DL, starting at 3 p.m., but I look forward to speaking with you more.
To be continued.
To be continued.
To be continued. Yes.
Thanks so much, Dr. Holley.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.